A black belt asked a simple woman to fight as a joke. What happened next silenced the whole gym. Sometimes the quietest people carry the loudest secrets. And Tyler Garrison was about to learn why you should never judge a book by its cover. Rebecca Thompson pushed through the heavy glass doors of Master Kim's Martial Arts Academy, her worn sneakers squeaking against the polished floor. The familiar scent of sweat and determination filled her nostrils as she scanned the training area for her 16-year-old daughter, Chloe. "Mom's here," Chloe called out, waving from across the blue mats where she'd been practicing forms with 3 other teenagers. Rebecca smiled, tucking a strand of graying hair behind her ear. At 38, she'd grown comfortable with her simple appearance. No makeup, oversized gray t-shirt, and comfortable sweatpants. Life had taught her that what mattered most couldn't be seen from the outside. "Take your time, sweetheart," Rebecca called back, settling onto a bench near the viewing area. She pulled out her phone, intending to catch up on emails while Chloe finished her session. The sound of sharp commands echoed across the dojo as Tyler Garrison, the head instructor, led an advanced class through their paces. His black belt gleamed against his pristine white uniform, and his voice carried the authority of someone who'd never been challenged. "Higher kicks, Jenkins. Your grandmother could do better." Tyler barked at a sweating teenager. Several students chuckled nervously, their respect mixed with fear. Rebecca watched quietly, noting Tyler's technique. Clean movements, decent form, but something about his demeanor rubbed her the wrong way. She'd seen his type before. Skilled enough to be dangerous, arrogant enough to be foolish. "Sensei Tyler's really tough," whispered one mother to another nearby. "But he gets results. My son earned his brown belt faster than anywhere else." "He certainly knows how to command attention," the other replied, glancing nervously at Tyler as he corrected another student with unnecessary force. 20 minutes later, Chloe jogged over, her face flushed with exertion. "Ready to go, Mom. I just need to grab my water bottle." "Course, honey. How was practice?" Sensei Tyler showed us some new combinations. He says I might test for my green belt next month." Rebecca's heart swelled with pride. Chloe had struggled with confidence before starting martial arts, and seeing her daughter grow stronger inside and out made every monthly payment worthwhile. As they gathered Chloe's gear, Tyler's booming voice cut through the chatter. "All right, everyone, before we bow out, who wants to see something entertaining?" The room fell silent, all eyes turning toward the instructor. Rebecca felt an uncomfortable knot forming in her stomach. Tyler's gaze swept the room before landing on her. A slow, predatory smile spread across his face. "You know what? I think we need a demonstration of why regular folks shouldn't mess with trained fighters." Several students exchanged worried glances. This wasn't part of their usual routine. "Mom, let's just go," Chloe whispered, tugging on Rebecca's sleeve. But Tyler wasn't finished. He strode across the mats with exaggerated confidence, his footsteps echoing in the suddenly tense atmosphere. Other parents shifted uncomfortably, unsure whether this was part of some planned lesson or something else entirely. Rebecca stood slowly, her maternal instincts on high alert. Whatever Tyler had planned, she could sense it wouldn't end well for someone. Tyler stopped directly in front of Rebecca, his 6-foot frame towering over her modest 5 feet 5 inches stature. The entire dojo had gone eerily quiet. Even the teenagers who'd been giggling moments before now watched with uncomfortable silence. "Ma'am," Tyler said loudly, ensuring everyone could hear. "I don't believe I've had the pleasure. You're Chloe's mom, right?" "That's correct," Rebecca replied evenly, her voice calm despite the tension crackling through the air. Tyler's smile widened, but there was no warmth in it. "Well, since you're here watching us train, I was wondering, have you ever been curious about martial arts yourself?" Rebecca felt Chloe's hand slip into hers, her daughter's palm damp with nervous sweat. "Not particularly," she answered truthfully. "Oh, come on now," Tyler continued, his tone becoming more theatrical as he played to his audience. "I bet you've watched all those action movies thinking, I could do that, right? Most folks do. A few nervous chuckles rippled through the room. Rebecca noticed several parents looking away, clearly uncomfortable with where this was heading. "Actually, I haven't," Rebecca said, maintaining her composure. "We should probably head home. Chloe has homework." But Tyler wasn't done with his show. He took another step closer, his voice dropping just low enough to seem conversational while still carrying to every corner of the room. "You know what? I got an idea. How about a little friendly demonstration? Nothing serious. Just a quick sparring match to show everyone the difference between real training and wishful thinking." The blood drained from Chloe's face. "Sensei Tyler, my mom doesn't." "It's okay, sweetheart," Rebecca interrupted softly, though her jaw had tightened almost imperceptibly. Tyler clapped his hands together, the sharp sound making several people jump. "Excellent. Don't worry, Mrs. Thompson. Is it? I'll go easy on you. Wouldn't want to hurt someone who's never thrown a proper punch." The condescension in his voice was unmistakable. Now Rebecca could see the other students shifting uncomfortably, some looking ashamed of their instructor's behavior, others excited by the prospect of entertainment. "This really isn't necessary," Rebecca said, her voice still steady. "Oh, but it is," Tyler insisted, spreading his arms wide. "See, too many people these days think they're tough because of what they see on TV. It's important to understand the reality of real combat training versus suburban mom fitness." The insult hung in the air like smoke. Rebecca felt something shift inside her chest. Not anger exactly, but a familiar coldness she hadn't experienced in years. "Besides," Tyler continued, now clearly enjoying himself, "what's the worst that could happen? A few gentle moves, maybe a takedown or two. Consider it a free lesson in humility." Around the room, reactions were mixed. Some students looked mortified by their instructor's behavior, while others seemed caught up in the drama. The other parents appeared torn between intervening and staying out of it. Rebecca looked down at Chloe, whose eyes were wide with worry and embarrassment. Then she looked back at Tyler, whose smug expression suggested he was already savoring his inevitable victory. "One condition," Rebecca said quietly. Tyler raised an eyebrow. "Oh, and what's that?" "When this is over, you apologize to your students for this display." Tyler's laughter echoed through the dojo, sharp and mocking. "Apologize, lady. You're going to be the one apologizing to the floor when you hit it." Several students winced at their instructor's cruelty, but Rebecca's expression remained unchanged. She simply nodded and began removing her jacket, revealing lean, well-defined arms that spoke of years of disciplined training. "Mom," Chloe whispered urgently. "You don't have to do this." Rebecca squeezed her daughter's hand gently. "Sometimes, honey, bullies need to be reminded that strength comes in many forms." As Rebecca moved toward the center of the mat, her gait suddenly transformed. The shuffling walk of a tired suburban mother melted away, replaced by the fluid, measured steps of someone who understood combat on an intimate level. Tyler, busy adjusting his belt and playing to his audience, missed the change entirely. "All right, folks, gather around. Let's make this educational." What Tyler didn't know, what nobody in that room knew, was that Rebecca Thompson had once been Rebecca Chen, 3-time world champion in mixed martial arts. For 6 years, she dominated competitions across multiple weight classes, earning the nickname Silent Storm for her calm demeanor and devastating technique. She'd retired abruptly at 25, not from injury or defeat, but from tragedy. Her younger brother, also a fighter, had died in a car accident while rushing to one of her matches. The guilt had been overwhelming. If she hadn't been competing, he wouldn't have been on that road that night. Rebecca had walked away from everything, the titles, the endorsements, the life she'd built. She changed her name back to her mother's maiden name, moved across the country, and sworn never to fight again. For 13 years she'd kept that promise, channeling her energy into raising Chloe and building a quiet life as a graphic designer. But now, watching Tyler's smug face as he explained to his students how real fighters handled wannabes, Rebecca felt the old fire stirring. Not for glory or competition, but for something more important: respect. "You ready, Mrs. Thompson?" Tyler called out, bouncing lightly on his toes in what he probably thought was an intimidating display. Rebecca centered herself on the mat, her breathing becoming deeper and more controlled. Around her, the watching crowd grew quieter, sensing something they couldn't quite identify. "Just remember," Tyler announced to his audience, "this is why we train seriously. You can't fake experience." The irony of his words wasn't lost on Rebecca. She'd faced Olympic champions, professional fighters, and martial artists who dedicated their entire lives to perfection. Tyler, for all his arrogance, was about to learn what real experience looked like. "Any last words before we begin?" Tyler asked, his tone dripping with false courtesy. Rebecca looked directly into his eyes for the first time since this ordeal began. What Tyler saw there made him take an involuntary step backward. Not fear or uncertainty, but the cold, calculating gaze of a predator who'd been playing prey. "Yes," Rebecca said quietly, her voice carrying clearly through the silent dojo. "You might want to remember that the strongest people are often the ones who choose not to show their strength." Tyler's confident smirk faltered slightly, but his pride wouldn't let him back down now. "All right then," Tyler said, shaking off his momentary uncertainty. "Let's get this over with." He began stretching ostentatiously, performing high kicks and elaborate warm-up routines clearly designed to intimidate. The other students watched with a mixture of excitement and concern, while the parents looked increasingly uncomfortable with the entire situation. Rebecca, meanwhile, stood perfectly still in the center of the mat. Her breathing had become deep and rhythmic, and those few people who knew what to look for might have noticed the subtle shift in her posture, the slight lowering of her center of gravity, the way her weight had distributed evenly across both feet. "Mom, please," Chloe whispered from the sideline. "You don't have anything to prove." Rebecca turned to her daughter with a gentle smile. "Sometimes, sweetheart, it's not about proving anything. It's about teaching." Tyler finished his warm-up with a flourish, throwing a series of air punches that whooshed audibly through the silence. "Hope you've been saying your prayers, Mrs. Thompson. This might hurt a little." Around the room, several parents exchanged worried glances. This had gone far beyond a simple demonstration. Tyler's behavior was becoming genuinely concerning. "Should we stop this?" whispered one father to another. "Oh, he's the instructor." Besides, she agreed to it. Rebecca could hear the murmurs, but paid them no attention. Instead, she closed her eyes briefly, allowing muscle memory to resurface. Her body remembered everything. The countless hours of training, the precise timing of counters, the feel of an opponent's energy, and how to redirect it. When she opened her eyes, something fundamental had changed. The tired suburban mom was gone, replaced by someone who moved with predatory grace. Tyler noticed the transformation and frowned. "You've been holding out on us, haven't you? Taken a few self-defense classes at the community center." "Something like that," Rebecca replied softly. "Well, no matter. A little weekend warrior training won't help you here." Tyler began circling her slowly, still playing to his audience. "See, kids, this is what happens when people overestimate their abilities. Real combat isn't like the movies." Rebecca remained motionless in the center, turning only her head to track his movement. To an untrained eye, she looked passive, almost defenseless. But to anyone who understood fighting, her stillness was unnerving, like a coiled spring waiting for the right moment to release. "The thing about martial arts," Tyler continued his lecture while circling, "is that it takes years to develop real skill. You can't just watch a few videos and think you're ready for the real thing." "You're absolutely right," Rebecca agreed, her voice carrying an odd note that made several people look at her more closely. Tyler paused his circling, clearly surprised by her agreement. "Exactly. So maybe we should just call this off before." "No," Rebecca interrupted gently. "You wanted to teach a lesson about real martial arts. Let's teach one." The certainty in her voice sent a ripple of unease through the room. Even Tyler seemed to sense that something had shifted, though his pride prevented him from backing down. "Fine," he said, settling into what he probably thought was an intimidating fighting stance. "But don't say I didn't warn you." Tyler launched forward with a textbook right cross, the kind of attack he'd probably used successfully against countless beginners. It was fast, technically sound, and delivered with the full weight of his considerable frame behind it. It never came close to landing. Rebecca moved like water flowing around a stone. She stepped offline at the precise moment, her body angling just enough to let Tyler's punch slice through empty air where her head had been a split second before. The movement was so subtle, so economical that several observers weren't even sure she'd moved at all. Tyler stumbled slightly, his momentum carrying him past his intended target. His eyes widened in confusion. That punch should have connected. He'd used it successfully hundreds of times before. "Lucky dodge," he muttered, resetting his stance. "Won't happen twice." Rebecca said nothing, simply returned to her centered position and waited. This time Tyler tried a combination. Jab, cross, hook. Each punch was technically proficient, thrown with the confidence of someone who'd never been seriously challenged. Each punch found nothing but air. Rebecca moved like smoke, her head slipping punches by millimeters, her body swaying just out of range with an economy of motion that was almost hypnotic to watch. She never looked rushed, never seemed off balance. It was as if she could see each attack coming seconds before Tyler himself knew what he was going to throw. Around the room, the atmosphere had shifted dramatically. The excited chatter had died completely, replaced by an electric tension that made everyone hold their breath. Even the youngest students could sense they were witnessing something extraordinary. Tyler's confidence began to crack. Sweat beat on his forehead as he realized none of his attacks were even close to connecting. "Stand still and fight," he snarled, launching into a more aggressive series of strikes. Rebecca continued her ethereal dance, avoiding each technique with minimal effort. But now something else was happening. She was moving closer with each evasion, subtly closing the distance while Tyler exhausted himself, throwing increasingly desperate attacks. "What's she doing?" whispered one of the teenage students. "She's making him tired," observed another more perceptively. Tyler threw a wild haymaker, putting everything he had behind it. Rebecca ducked under it smoothly and for the first time touched him. Just a light tap on his exposed ribs as he spun past her. The touch was so gentle it couldn't have hurt a child, but it sent a clear message. "I could have hurt you there, but I chose not to." Tyler spun around, his face flushed with exertion and growing panic. "What are you playing at? Fight back." "I am fighting," Rebecca said quietly. "I'm just choosing how." The profundity of her statement hung in the air. She wasn't running or cowering. She was demonstrating a level of control that none of them had ever seen before. Tyler, his breath coming in ragged gasps, made one final desperate attempt. He dropped low and shot forward in a takedown attempt, using his wrestling background to try and bring the fight to the ground where his size advantage might matter. It was exactly the wrong move against exactly the wrong person. As Tyler shot forward for his takedown attempt, Rebecca did something that defied everything the watching crowd thought they understood about physics and fighting. She didn't try to sprawl backward or defend against the takedown. Instead, she stepped forward into it. Her movement was so unexpected, so perfectly timed that Tyler's forward momentum worked against him. Rebecca's hands found the back of his head and shoulders, and using a technique that looked almost gentle, she guided his energy downward and forward while stepping aside. Tyler crashed face first into the mat with a resounding thud that echoed through the silent dojo. The room erupted in gasps and shocked whispers. Tyler lay still for a moment, stunned not just by the impact, but by the complete impossibility of what had just happened. He'd been the aggressor. He'd had all the momentum, and somehow he'd ended up eating canvas while his opponent stood calmly above him, not even breathing hard. "How? Gotta." Tyler pushed himself up on his elbows, staring at Rebecca with a mixture of confusion and dawning respect. "How did you do that?" Rebecca extended her hand to help him up. 13 years of practice before I ever set foot in this dojo." Tyler ignored the offered hand and scrambled to his feet on his own, his face burning with embarrassment and wounded pride. Around the room, His students watched with wide eyes, seeing their seemingly invincible instructor reduced to a confused, humbled man. "That's impossible," Tyler muttered. You're just a mom, a regular person." "No," Rebecca said gently but firmly. "I'm a person who chose to step away from fighting to focus on what really mattered, raising my daughter. But that doesn't mean I forgot everything I learned." The truth hit the room like a wave. This wasn't some lucky amateur who'd gotten in a few good moves. This was someone who operated on a completely different level. Someone who'd been holding back so dramatically that the entire confrontation had been less a fight than a lesson. Chloe stepped forward, her eyes bright with tears of pride and relief. "Mom was Rebecca Chen," she announced to the stunned room. "Three-time world champion. She retired when I was little." The silence that followed was deafening. Several of the older students pulled out their phones, clearly Googling the name. Their expressions shifted from skepticism to awe as they found videos and articles about Rebecca's legendary career. Tyler's face went through a series of emotions: shock, embarrassment, and finally something that might have been the beginning of wisdom. He looked around at his students, then back at Rebecca. I owe you an apology," he said quietly. "And I owe them one too." He gestured toward his students. "This wasn't teaching. This was bullying." Rebecca nodded. "The strongest thing you can do is admit when you're wrong. Your students will respect you more for it, not less." Tyler straightened his shoulders and turned to face his class. "Everyone, I made a serious mistake today. I let my ego make decisions that my brain should have made. Mrs. Thompson showed me what real martial arts looks like. Not the techniques, but the wisdom to know when and how to use them." What do you think about Rebecca's incredible revelation? Sometimes the most powerful people are the ones who choose not to show their strength until absolutely necessary. Have you ever misjudged someone based on their appearance? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories about times when someone surprised you. Don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories like this one. And let me know where you're watching from. These tales remind us that everyone has a story and you never know what incredible journey someone has traveled. Ring that notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.